everyone. For this Random Talk Sunday, I thought it would be interesting and cool to take another fan request and discuss famous landmarks that I would like to visit. If you are fairly familiar with my channel, I have posted some videos in regards to traveling and also about various things that involve going out and seeing different cultures, seeing different ways of living, and seeing different things that each country and or culture sort of has to offer. So I thought it would be interesting to sort of discuss the landmarks that I would really love to see but haven't got a chance to see. Now, there are some landmarks, again, that I have already seen, so I won't be discussing those. So if I don't mention a landmark that you particularly want to see, it might be because I've already seen it, or I'm not familiar with it, or it might be because I'm not really particularly interested in seeing that landmark. But regardless, let me sort of begin by discussing a couple of these. And by a couple, I mean probably around 10. We'll see how much there are. But the first thing that I would really like to see one day, and that is a major landmark, is the Taj Mahal. I've always seen pictures of it constantly everywhere. I've sort of seen I sort of see how, even from the pictures, how massive in scale it is. And when I actually researched the history behind it, it is really interesting in how it's sort of like they call it a mausoleum, which sort of means it's a place where someone dedicates to someone who's passed away. It's like basically a big building that's just it's sort of like just a big memorial, sort of, I guess, tomb, you could say, too, because there is a tomb within it. And basically it was for an emperor's dead wife. One of his wives passed away. I think it was from childbirth, and he was so taken aback by it that he decided to build the Taj Mahal. And there's a lot of different things within it as well, it seems like, and it provides a lot of different aspects within the history of the sort of Indian culture. And I think that it would be something definitely worth value to see in my lifetime. I hope I can see it. I don't know if I'll be able to or not, but I think it would be really an interesting landmark to see and to invest time in. So I think definitely that's one of the places I would like to go to. And there's I think a lot of things also in India that are worth seeing. And also there's supposed to be a lot of good food in India. So I hope to enjoy that as well. So there's a lot of other things that I think are tied in particular with the Taj Mahal, that I think I would find enjoyable in regards to where it's located. So I think it's definitely one of the landmarks that I definitely want to invest my time into maybe seeing, hopefully once in my lifetime. The next one I wanted to talk about briefly is the Egyptian pyramids. I would love to see the Egyptian pyramids. I've always seen them in pictures and in movies and in television. They're just everywhere, and I find them so fascinating because of, again, how they're sort of constructed with the pyramid shape, and also just the massive amount of time and dedication that was done for these monuments in particular. And I just find them to be really interesting. And even though the pyramids don't hold as much weight in regards to variety, like, the Taj Mahal just has a lot of different rooms, and there's a lot of variety to it. Even though the pyramids themselves don't provide a lot of variety, there's also these little things that surrounds sort of the pyramids, with the calligraphy in particular. That's also really fascinating, and the whole place that it's set up in is really cool, because there's nothing really else that surrounds that area. It's just these pyramids. So it really gets you absorbed into the desert-like environment that it has to offer. And I really find that to be something that's really worth value to see once, especially with so much history and so much that has come from these pyramids. And I think they're just one of these great landmarks of man, and I just don't think I could envision myself not seeing it at one point. It would be nice to go, but I don't know. In regards to the Egyptian kind of American relations, I don't know how safe it is to travel there, so that's kind of what's made me a little bit discouraged. But hopefully maybe there will be a point where those worries aren't so much of a problem. But I definitely would consider it to be one of those landmarks that I would really want to invest my time in exploring. Now, the next one I wanted to discuss in particular is Stonehenge. Now, I've been to England before, but unfortunately I wasn't able to see Stonehenge, and I hope to maybe go once in my lifetime to Stonehenge. What I find interesting about Stonehenge is the fact that we don't really know a whole lot about it in compared to the other previous landmarks that I've mentioned, where we kind of have a really thoroughly vast knowledge of in regards to what they sort of represent and what they reflect on in regards to the history and the culture. Stonehenge is kind of like, we don't know what this really is. We don't know who built it. We don't really know what it was really meant for. We don't really know what the significant purpose that it holds. And I like how Stonehenge is sort of you can sort of create your own meaning as to what you think ultimately was the reason that Stonehenge was constructed. I like to think it's for maybe some kind of navigation type purposes, just with the way that it's just circular. I mean, I'm not sure. It's really hard to tell exactly what it was for. Maybe it was like, I guess you could say, at least, actually this would probably be my first guess, as opposed to being like some kind of navigation type tool. I don't know. Is that it would be something of like a community bonding place where you would have just a circle, and a lot of people could probably see it because they're so tall. So it was maybe a place for people to gather and have sort of community. That I think could also be another reason. But I think there's a lot of theories in regards to Stonehenge, and if it's religious, if it's some kind of spiritual thing, or there's a lot of strangeness behind this particular landmark of man, and I think it would be really, really interesting to see something like Stonehenge, because it has that kind of a mystery associated with it, and it'd be interesting to just touch one of the stones and go, did somebody actually lift it up, or did someone actually touch it, or how did it get here? And you kind of feel like you're a part of history. So that's something definitely I would like to see. Now, the next one that I want to mention it's called the Chichen Itza, and that's in Mexico. And it's this very, it's almost like a pyramid, except it's got a lot of stairs to it, and it's I think it's sort of flat on the top. It's not like a full pyramid, but it's definitely Mayan style. It has that very Mayan-esque culture associated with it, and I find the way it's designed to be really interesting. And there's also a lot of history behind it in regards to the Mayans and their I almost want to say it is kind of like I guess, a temple, and there's a ton of other, I think, things sort of surround it too. So there's a lot of ancient history involved here, and I think it would be an interesting place to explore in particular, especially since it's really intact and and just seems so well preserved with the stones that they used, kind of like the pyramids too. So I think it would be something that I would be really invested in seeing once, and I think it has um, a lot of interesting elements within it that sort of make it unique compared to maybe some other landmarks. So I think it's something that I would be interested in learning more about and exploring. So definitely would be on my bucket list. The next one that I want in particular to see is the Hagia Sophia, or Hagia Sophia. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But this is in Istanbul, Turkey, and it's been, I guess, for thousands of years, according to my research, the largest cathedral in the world. And this thing is really massive and huge, and as you can probably tell, I like huge, massive buildings from this list. And the reason why I like this one in particular is that it has this really unique style to it, and it has these towers that rise to that make it unique, and it just, I think, would be just really interesting to see and explore and go inside and really see the kinds of art and the style that the artists were going for, and sort of what the time period was like, and explore sort of the avenues of the cathedral. I just think it would just be so cool to see, because it just has a lot to offer because of the fact that it is so massive and that it is so large. So I think it's definitely something that I could envision myself going to, especially since Istanbul in Turkey is another famous, like, touristy kind of spot. It's something that I definitely would be interested in going to. So I guess that's the way I would I guess those are really the only things I can say in particular about that church or cathedral. The next landmark that I would like to see is the Temple Mount, which is basically, I guess, the noble sanctuary in Jerusalem. I've always found Jerusalem fascinating. I feel like there's a lot of history there. Again, I don't know how safe it is to travel, but I hope to maybe go there someday and explore just the massive amount of history. And in particular, the Temple Mount really does provide sort of, I guess, the center of Jerusalem, because it's really where all of these different kinds of religions sort of kind of come together and have these different aspects to them that make them unique, but at the same time there is this kind of distinct and within those distinctions you can kind of see what makes these various landmarks that sort of are like within sort of the Temple Mount unique. And I think a lot of not only is there a lot of history, but there's also a lot of culture and a lot of different things to explore. So I think it's definitely something that I would consider seeing in my lifetime if I could. The second to last one that I'm going to be discussing is in Moscow, and they call it the Kremlin. And basically, it's a huge, they call it a historic fortified complex. And within this historical fortified complex, there's a lot of different churches, a lot of different buildings, and it sort of provides you sort of a little bit of the Russian culture, the Russian style of artistry and architecture and things like that. So I think that's something that I think would be just really cool to see, because it combines a lot of different things, and there's like various museums there, uh, and cathedrals and other buildings that I think hold a lot of value, and I think would just be really interesting to explore and look at, and just how unique it's, and see how uniquely it's set up. So I think it's definitely something that I would really like to see within my lifetime, if I could. And last but certainly not least, the last thing that I'd like to see is called Schönbrunn Palace, which is in Vienna, Austria, and it's kind of like the Versailles of Austria, basically, because it's a huge palace. It's very lavish. It's I think it was sort of like a summer home for the Habsburgs, and the Habsburgs were this big empire that ruled a long time ago within Austria, and they probably had various other territories too. But basically, that I think would be something really worth value to see, because of just how massive it is, how luxurious it is, and how it holds a lot of history, and it feels like you're going through like a massive mansion, and and I just think that would just be so cool to do, and it really reminded me of Versailles when I saw it, and I thought it was just a really interesting an interesting building that was designed simplistically from the outside, but then when you see what's really inside, it's just all so lavish, and just so flamboyant and just out there. Again, I think it is like a Rococo kind of art, so it's very it's kind of flashy, and and I find those kinds of art and that kind of period to be interesting. So, and I think it has it's just very pretty. It's just very beautiful to just look at, and I think it's a beautiful place to explore. So, and it seems like a beautiful place to explore, at least. So, I think that would be definitely, I think, worth seeing at some point in my life. But ultimately, though, those are basically a gist of the landmarks that I would hopefully like to see within my lifetime at some point. I hope to experience it not really so much alone, but hopefully with my family within the future, and if I have more money, like when I'm on my own, to do these things too. But I don't think I'll be able to do them anytime, at least soon. But I hope to, hopefully within my lifetime, when I save money, I'm just going to use a lot of my savings on just traveling, because I enjoy it so much, and I think it provides everyone with a lot of value and a lot of insight into the world. And I think everybody gets sort of an appreciation out of it too, when they go to a different place and see what it was like maybe in a different time period. So I think, though, ultimately that's really all I can say about these ones in particular. I'm more than happy to hear what anybody else's landmarks are, and where they would like to go, and what they would like to experience. But I think ultimately, though, that's all I can really say. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But until next time, everybody. Bye.